Islam. So it's very important for us to discuss this. And it's important for Moorish Americans to be clear that none of us are confused on who we are and what the Prophet laid out. Act 6 is very important because it kind of covers the identity of who we are. Saying the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites, right? And that's one of the keys. If you guys were, for those who came in earlier, I was just randomly talking about the questionnaire, how it's set up in an algebraic manner. And I used the example of, why are you Moorish American? Because a descendant of Moroccans born in America. Then it goes to say, what is the modern name for a Moabite? And it says Moroccan. So you can put those two together, and which confirms it is Act 6. You know what I'm saying? When it says that the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabit the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So what we have to do is begin to parallel the two in order to see how it runs together. Because it's easy for me to tell you, oh, you're descended from Moroccans, but you're gonna look at French Montana and thinking you in some type of relation to him or whatever. You're looking at the Moroccans that look like French Montana and all them, other people who claim to be Moroccan, and we fail to realize, him. If y'all into Wu-Tang, got Silver Rings. Silver Rings is the one who he's one of the extended Wu members, but he's the one who came up with the idea to have the Wu album and sell it for like $2 million or whatever, $1 million or something like that. And the silver case, that was him. That was his money, his family money. They invested that money into that. You know what I'm saying? That project. You know what I'm saying? That was Silver Rings. If you watch the from Mike's the Men documentary of Wu-Tang, and Silver Rings came up with that. The Silver Rings is from Morocco. So when you say Moroccans, when you think of Moroccans, a lot of times we think of Silver Rings. Or we think of people that look like him or look like French Montana. We don't understand that Moroccans is a array of colors. And the light skin or the very fair skin complected Moroccans did not come into play heavily until Morocco fell. And remember, the Moroccans were under the control of the French protectorate. So this is why you have that book. When you look at, there's a book. Sister Coca-Cola sent me the demonstration. Pages from that. She yeah. So she sent me the demonstration, and I know where she was coming from too. And I think a lot of times people get this book. People get this book, or they hear about this book because this book is available online. It's available online, and the book is very. The book is. I think what it is because of the context and what we in nature are looking for. It kind of gives us. We kind of go in and look at this book, and we already have a preset idea. So when we read it, we kind of coming from a different angle. The Empire of Morocco, the present state of the Empire of Morocco, that book, or Chenier, is translated from the French M. Chenier, the French Revolutionary. You got that book, and there's another one, the Moroccan or something like that, and it talks about American Sultan. A lot of people think that's actually talking about a sultan that actually existed in America. But what we're actually looking for, well, not looking for, but what it's actually stating in a sense is that there were Americans who took residence in Morocco, and they had a representative, and they considered him by just that their sultan. You know what I'm saying? So it was more like a term, a descriptive term, and not necessarily an actual station of authority. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I encourage everybody to get familiar with Sister Dana Marnici's work. Okay. You want to get familiar with her work. Okay. So, once you that's something that I would stress. Islam, brother, y'all, you have a question?
Islam. Question and statement. First I re-rise to my highest heights, giving all perfect praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, and honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to make a statement. One thing about this book that I'm making is important. Montezuma, he is from North America, which is Mexican, right? His war feathers that are over in Britain that they have right now, that they have locked up, that they're not letting people have them over here, but they let you see them. It says a Moorish headdress. I did the research on Montezuma. Montezuma, he was an emperor, which emperor and sultan is synonymous here in the Americas. So if he was Moorish, then he had to be a Moorish sultan in the Americas. That's one. And two, Musa meaning Moses. Masa is interchangeable with the word emperor and sultan. Islamism.
Yeah, because that's actually my son's actual full name is Mansa. I'm saying Mansa is there in the beginning. His Mansa al-Majin. So, yeah, that's the, that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. I would say also what they said, they said they were one and the same. Because, the story of Abu Bakr, who's actually the older brother of Mansa Musa. And he sailed to America, but he never returned. So Mansa took his fleet and sailed into the Americas to search for his brother. And some say that Montezuma and Mansa were the same, because instead of him going back, he set up shop. And they came from Mali, the Mali area at the time. So, but they brought gold, fleets, and ships. And there's always was a question regarding this, is that why would somebody who not really know for sure where they're going bring that many ships, that many, materials, gold, all that, if they didn't know where they were going, or if this was just an exploration. Brother Abdullah Ibrahim Bey, brother Abdullah Ibrahim Bey had just came back a few weeks ago from Morocco, and and through the WhatsApp, I hit him with some questions to ask, his Moroccan host, whoever was hosting and being there, man. And I asked about the connection between Morocco and America, because a lot of times, it won't be stated in America, but outside America, they have a whole different history about America. Okay. So the next time he goes, we're gonna have better questions. I didn't know he was going until late. So I just threw questions out there on the fly, like whatever came to mind. So I asked about the connection between Morocco and America, as far as, was the natives, were they under the protection of the Sultan? Or did they have any connection to citizenship in Morocco, so forth and so on, whatever, that around those lines, right? So he said he had asked that question to best of his ability, and they said no, but the Moroccans did have contact with the natives, and they did spread Islam to some of the natives. So some of the natives who were practicing Muslims had contact with the Moroccans, Muslims from Morocco that came and shed Islam to the natives here in America. So that's what we had so far. But that's good. It's not what we're looking for. But there's some that's potent. That's still potent enough. You know what I'm saying? When that's not what we're looking for. I'm good with that, but I know it's deeper than that.
Islam.
And Islam. Yes, sir.
I wanted to camelback on that same thought.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, bro.
I have a friend that I met in Denver when I moved out there. She's from the Kingdom of Morocco.
Right.
And we had conversations. One of the conversations we had, I was telling her about I was a Moorish American, this, that, and the third. And she was like, yeah, you're the ancient, we know who you are. You're the ancient Berber tribe. One. And two, probably like 2.5 months ago, I ran across a brother at work in New Jersey. And we was talking. We ended up asking me, yo, where you from? Because I was telling him about our peoples. And I told him I was from Philly. I said, where you from? He said, Morocco. I said, I got a question for you. Y'all know that we Moroccans over here? He was like, yeah. I said, is it taught in school? He said, nah, it's taught in the household. We all know the history of over here. I was like, what? He was like, yeah. Everybody knows that about the treaty. Everybody knows about all of that. And they know that we are Moroccans. The so-called blacks are Moroccans. He told me that. So with that being said, every time I bump into somebody and I talk like that to them and they tell me they from over there, they're well aware who we are. The issue is us. Islamism.
Islam. And I'm not denying it, what they're saying. I just know I haven't had that experience bumping into Moroccans. A lot of, I guess it's what Moroccans you bump into who will tell you. Some Moroccans are actually oblivious to that. I'm not saying all Moroccans are, but some are the ones I come across are oblivious to that. But I think they come from the latter. You might have connected with some Moroccans who actually, you know what I'm saying, who weren't necessarily coming straight from who had like French, mostly French or, Arab lineage in a sense. Or you might run into a Moroccan who has a Berber connection. So that might be even a Berber tale or Berber knowledge that's amongst the Berbers that still exists in Morocco about us. You know what I'm saying? So, but a lot of times, a lot of that's also mainly discussed amongst the academia circles. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I'm not denying what they're saying, brother. I'm definitely in tune because that's probably, what, and that goes along with the prophecy. Definitely go along with the prophecy. But the dealing with the Moroccan and just that connection, we do have there is a somewhat of a connection, which I look for, more specific and everything like that. Now, here's the reason why, and I'm gonna go in. We look at the divine constitution and bylaws, and let's see if I can share my screen. Yeah. Okay. All right. So when we look at, let me enlarge this a little bit. Look at Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they know that they are part and parcel of the said government. Pause. Now, we kind of covered that last week, but let's go a little deeper. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. Must. Must is an emphasized word. If I say must, that means that's like that has an emphasis. Like, you gotta do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the word must. Like, let's go to the internet and look up the definition of must. I got deleted. Okay. Word, a verb or noun, right? The verb means be obliged to, should, expressing necessity. Okay, you must show your ID, your ID card. Right, that's an example. 2, expressing an opinion about something that is logically very likely. There must be something wrong. That's in essence, right? As a noun, something that should not be overlooked or missed. Okay, so just take the noun version with the first definition, right? Be obliged. Both of those have obligatory nature. Say it again. It has an obligatory nature. Islam. So if I say all members must proclaim their nationality, that is a obligatory statement. Islam. You must be a Moorish American. There's no more American, no American Moor, no Mexican Moor. That's the nationality. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. You must proclaim your nationality with us. That's key. With us. Okay? With us. Understand the language. Prophet told Emilio, if they understood language, they'll be okay. They will be all right. They understood language. That means if you comprehend it, this is no obligatory statement. Anytime word obliged is related to obligatory. To be obliged to, should, express a necessity. This is a necessity for you to do this with us, not with the Great Seal, not with Washington, not with the United States American Republic, not with the Moorish American government, the Moorish American national government, the Moorish American, the federal, Moorish federal, whatever, the rise of the Moors, any of them, with us, all members. I'm saying members. Okay, now if you're outside the temple, then you make your own choice. But if you consider yourself a member of this organization, it is with us you proclaim your nationality. It's with us. Okay, you got some Moors who are coming in the temple, but they're proclaiming nationality with other groups. All this stuff, that's a violation of Act 6. Let's get that clear. And trust me, we had some members in our body who did that, and and people who do that, man, you can show their actions will show for themselves how committed they are. A lot of people who do that, they're in it trying to get something. And I'm be with the temple, but I'm gonna go ahead with this one over here because they got this, they got the cards. They know how to navigate with the law better. Not necessarily taking into consideration or even studying themselves about the temple. If you study the temple and you study what it can do, a lot of it, that stuff what they're doing is won't even match up. Won't even match up. But with us, all members must proclaim the nationality. All right. So let me go back. Minimize that here. Okay. All right. So, and we're teaching our people the nationality in their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government. Now, it says in. It said not only you're proclaiming with us, but we're going teaching our people. So once you proclaim, you're a member, you proclaim, you're supposed to go out and demonstrate the nationality in the divine creed. And let them know that they are not Negroes, let them know that they're a part and partial of the said government. That there's no separation. Okay. You got Moors going around emphasizing the Dred Scott case. Heavily the Dred Scott case. We can go into the Dred Scott case a bit. Let's see what Dred Scott case. Because the Dred Scott case is going, it's the Dred Scott decision. For the most part. So it's from the Britannica, Dred Scott decision, formerly Dred Scott versus John F.A. Sanford. Legal case in which the Supreme Court on March 6, 1857, ruled 7-2. Okay. That a slave, listen to the language, a slave, Dred Scott, who had resided in a free state and territory where slavery was prohibited, was not thereby entitled to his freedom. That African Americans are not and could never be citizens of the United States, and that the Missouri Compromise, which had declared free all territories west of Missouri and north of latitude 3630, was unconstitutional. The decision added fuel to the sectional controversy and pushed the country closer to civil war. Okay. Among constitutional scholars, Scott versus Sanford is widely considered the worst decision ever rendered by the Supreme Court. It has been cited in particular egregious, I say egregious, egregious example in the court history of wrongly imposing the judicial solution on a political problem. A latter Chief Justice Charles Evans Hughes famously characterized the decision as the court's great self-inflicted wound. Dred Scott was a slave who was owned by John Emerson of Missouri. In 1833, Emerson undertook a series of moves as a part of his service. He was military. He took Scott from Missouri to Illinois, a free state. Not really. It was free, but there was so much controversy with that, as far as they had a lot of limitations on our people. During this period, Scott met and married Harry Robinson, who became part. Oh, brother, yeah, sure. You had a question? Had your hand raised?
Islam. Yeah, I'm just waiting till you finish.
Okay. Emerson married in 1838. In early 1840s, he and his wife returned with the Scotts to Missouri, and Emerson died in 1843. So basically, if I can recall, Emerson basically died. His wife, this is kind of heavy on his wife. I believe she ended up selling him. Scott reportedly attempted to purchase his freedom from Emerson, widow, who refused to sell. In 1846, with the help of anti-slavery lawyers, Harriet and Dred Scott filed individual lawsuits for their freedom in Missouri State Court in St. Louis on the grounds that their residents in a free state, in a free territory, had freedom from the bonds of slavery. It was later agreed that only Dred's case will move forward. The decision in the case would apply to Harriet's case as well, although the case was long, thought to have been unusual. The historians later demonstrated that several hundred suits for freedom were filed by or on behalf of slaves in decades before the Civil War. So this was a trend. There was a lot of people in the Dred Scott situation who were trying to file for their freedom or file petition for their freedom through the courts. Scott and Emerson took years. Oh, what in the world? Scott and Emerson took years to be resolved. In 1850, the state court declared Scott free, but the verdict was reversed in 1852 by the Missouri Supreme Court, which thereby invalidated Missouri's long-term standing doctrine of once free, always free. Emerson's widow then left Missouri and gave control of her late husband's estate to her brother, John F.A. Sanford. Okay. All right, so that's right. She didn't sell it, but she left. And, I think because the estate was a little more, she couldn't bear to take care of everything. So, it came a little burdensome on her. So she ended up leaving. And she ended up, she asked her brother, John F.A. Sanford, to take over. And as it says he was a resident of New York State at the time. Okay. Was later incorrectly spelled Sanford on the court document. Okay. Because Sanford was not subject to suit in Missouri, Scott's lawyer filed a suit against him in U.S. District Court. You understand the jurisdictions? So he wasn't a resident of Missouri. Okay. He wasn't a resident of Missouri. So he couldn't be sued in the Missouri court. So because it was a cross state line situation, he had to go to the U.S. District Federal Court to be sued. Do you understand the jurisdictions? This is interesting because you can dissect how things are going. When you talk about some court doesn't have jurisdiction, this is what they mean, really. Do you have jurisdiction over the subject matter. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole concept of not having the court not having jurisdiction. Because you can have a jurisdiction, you know, it could be a Philadelphia or Camden, you can go to Camden Court, County Court, or maybe Philadelphia Court or whatever, but or whatever, New York Court, you know, and if the subject matter and nature and detail is not is beyond those matters, then it has to go to a U.S. Federal court. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, especially if it deals with cross state line situation, then that's where U.S. federal court has stepped. Like one state cannot rule over a matter of another state. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's just, they just can't do that. All right. So the case eventually reached U.S. Supreme Court, which announced its decision March 1857. Just 2 days after the inauguration of President John Buchanan. Okay. So opinion of the Chief Justice Roger Taney. He was a racist, y'all. Just let y'all know. A lot of Moors and stuff be quoting him, this, that. Remember, the nature of this man, who he is, he was a racist. Okay. He was for slavery. Okay. It's the same concept where Kansas Owens, you know, she talking about, you know, Kansas Owens is talking on her documentary, and they're talking about George Floyd, and they have the criminal forensic specialist, and he's, you know, in the beginning of his interview, he's like, I have no opinions, you know, I have no stock in this, I have no whatever. He does. He's for police. He's pro-police. He wrote a book called, you know, regarding Black Lives Matter. In the title, he's talking about the war on police. Like, there ain't no war on police. Who's going to war on police? I mean, if you're talking about Soros, you know, maybe him and, you know, a couple of anarchist ideas, it's not necessarily a war on police. You know what I'm saying? But this is where, you know, this in comparison to what I'm saying is that you got to know the nature of certain people. Brother Eric Rutherford Bay, he talked about the 13th Amendment and how, you know, originally the 22 sections, you know, that were left, they actually had a racist context to them. And that's why they were left out, because they had racist context, because the person who was trying to put them past, he was a racist from Delaware. You know, so you got to understand who these people are. Like, you know, sometimes we forget, like, some of these people weren't genuine individuals wanting to see a balanced justice. Some of them favored, you know, pale skin European dominance. You know what I'm saying? So we have to, you know, make sure we keep that in mind, you know, especially when we're dealing with certain ideologies today, with the QAnon and Trump ain't really, you know, Trump is still president, and, you know, and Biden and this and this and that. And, you know, even a lot of that is stemming from racist European ideology. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, some stuff has true, but you really got to shift through that with a fine comb and all that, man. And really be careful when you do all that. I've done my little rant. So let's go was arguably the worst ever wrote. He ignored the precedent, distorted history, imposed a rigid rather than a flexible construction of the Constitution, ignored specific grants of power in the Constitution, tortured meanings out of other more obscure clauses. His logic on the citizenship issue was perhaps the most convoluted. He admitted that the African Americans could be citizens of a particular state and that they may not even be able to vote, as they in fact
Islam
did the same way. Let me finish,
okay.
and I'll let you go. but he argued that the state citizenship had nothing to do with national citizenship, and African Americans could not sue in federal court because they could not be citizens of the United States. Scott's suit, therefore, should have been dismissed for the lack of a jurisdiction by the district court on his joint court. Taney stood on shaky constitutional ground. If even one state considered an African American a citizen, then the Constitution required that all states, by inference, also the federal government had to accord that person all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. This is Article 4, Section 2, which includes that right to sue in federal court. Furthermore, Article 3, which establishes jurisdiction of the federal courts, does not mention national citizenship, but rather declares that the judicial power shall extend, among other things, to controversies between the citizens of different states, so-called diversity of jurisdiction. Yes, Sister Zafia, go ahead.
Islam. Yeah, I just was curious what you're saying other Moors do with all this Dred Scott stuff. Are they trying to make a point when they cite
Yeah,
Dred Scott?
well, because they take on, see what it is, they don't understand particular things about law, and they figure if they can distance, okay, they'll say this. They don't understand, they'll say, okay, well, we're not citizens of the United States, period. So that gives them a leeway to set up a separate government that the United States has to adhere to, because I'm not a citizen of the United States. Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, I see. Okay, got you. I
Yeah,
was trying to
so
understand what
yeah,
where we're going with it.
so they used the Dred Scott decision in the opinion of Judge Taney as evidence, but Judge Taney is a racist, and the whole Dred Scott decision was inaccurate. You know
But isn't it also that didn't Brother Millie Ill, since there's no happenings, Brother Millie Ill was associated with Alcorn State University,
Yeah. Go
and
ahead.
that there's no happenings on that, right?
Good. Mm-hmm.
And the first president of Alcorn State was the first senator of our nationality.
Say it again.
The first president, if I'm not mistaken, of that state. If you look at it from there's no happenings and the Prophet and Allah.
You said the president of the college or the state?
The first president of that college,
Okay.
Alcorn State University. Because there's no happenings when it comes to prophets and who prophets choose to be their successors and all that, it's a clue there, because that first president happened to be the first Asiatic elected to Senate, if I recall, Brother REVELS, HIRAM REVELS. And when he first got there, there was a big decision and discussion too, comparing his situation to the Dred Scott. And should he be able to represent Mississippi, being that he wouldn't he not be a citizen, blah, blah, blah. And at first it was really, the Senate was really debating it. Like one side was saying, no, he should not be able to serve as representative because of the Dred Scott decision. The other side was saying, this brother comes from North Carolina, near Fayetteville, a community of indigenous people of African-looking descent, mixture with.
What's his name again? Not to cut you.
HIRAM, like the Masonic character HIRAM is his first name. Middle name is Rhodes, like the Rhodes Scholar. Rhodes Rebels, yes. He was the first president of the university that are its successors. So if you look at it from the perspective of there being no happenings, right?
That's right.
Then that's not a happening. What the Prophet was subtly instructed by Allah to point to, as he made Millie Ill such a prominent leader. I'm sure multiple things, influenced his decision, but that subtlety that Alcorn State the first president of Alcorn State was a man whose nationality kind of hinted at what the prophet was hinting at in chapter 47. And this man was freeborn in the heart of North Carolina, no problems whatsoever getting educated, no problems whatsoever becoming a senator. Okay. So that our people don't know about. They only reached for Dred Scott, but I think those two men could be looked at in parallel. The society that doesn't want us to know about our nationality and about Moorish science would emphasize Dred Scott as the only example. But those of us who are privy to the insight from Moorish science and who are particularly privy to the lineage and the story of Mealy Ill, we could look at Hiram Revels and what the Senate was saying back and forth about him before they were interrupted by people who were just like, look, let's squash the whole thing. The Civil War settled it all. Okay, the Civil War settled it all. The North won, and now we get to do whatever we want, and we get to reverse the Dred Scott decision. But before that argument was made, they were making an interesting little volley that based on the fact that Hiram Revels knew his nationality and that he never, it's kind of like what Pimienta Bay was hinting at about the South Carolina Act with the Moroccans. Like that Hiram and his ancestors knew their nationality from before the Revolutionary War. And they sustained in the deep South and endured, free as can be, free as a bird. North Carolina means the state of the Northern free man, and they sure lived that out, okay? To the point where he was able to eventually represent Mississippi in Senate. I think that's what the prophet's also pointing at for those who can read between the lines at subtleties. Peace.
I'm on mic mute. I thought I was talking. Sorry. So Hiram Rhodes Revels, he was aware of his nationality. What did he proclaimed? He said he was a freeman, right?
Well, all I know is that even if he used the terminology of Negro, Black, and colored, he lived the life of a free man from birth and was multiple generations of it. And he kind of hinted at what the prophet was talking about in the first 8 verses. His life and his ancestry hints at what the prophet was talking about in the first 8 verses of chapter 47, talking about we was coming across the Atlantic out of our own free will. You know, his story kind of reeks of that. It hints of that there was a demographic of our people who were never enslaved in the Deep South. And he just represented the cream of the crop out of those people and was able, it says, early life and education. Revels was born in 1822 in Fayetteville, that's Deep South, North Carolina, to free people of color, quote unquote, with
That's borderline South Carolina.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The Carolinas probably used to be one, and the states mean the free man, the realm of the free man. If you look up the etymology of Carolina, okay, no happenings, okay, with ancestors who had been free since the American Revolution. That's a long time before the Civil War, okay? His parents were African American and other mixtures of Native American ancestry. I just glossed over that. His mother, because it's the same mixture we all have, his mother was also specifically known to be of very international descent, and his father was a preacher. He was a second cousin to various prominent people. I'm summarizing. And you skip over to his political career, the next section on Wikipedia, and it talks about, he was a part of these churches, he led these churches, and then he was assigned to Louisiana in the Methodist Church, I think it was, Methodist. In 1886, he was called as a permanent pastor in Mississippi. Okay, so this is where it overlaps with Brother Mealy Ill's story. Okay, no happenings, remember. Then it says during Reconstruction, he was elected alderman in Natchez in 1868. And then in 1869, he was elected to represent Adams County in Mississippi State Senate. And then you go on to election to Senate. It says, at the time, as in every state, the Mississippi legislature elected US senators. They were not elected by popular vote until after ratification of the 17th Amendment in 1913. That's a year from us Moors. That's a year for us Moors. But before 1913, the elite, the representatives, voted for who their senators would be. Okay, so that change is pretty significant. In 1870, Revels was elected by a vote of 81 to 15 in the Mississippi legislature to finish the term of one of the state's 2 seats in the US Senate, which had been left vacant since the Civil War. Previously, it had been held by someone else who withdrew from the Senate in 1861 when Mississippi seceded. When Revels arrived in Washington, D.C., and here's the discourse that went down on paper, the different arguments I was mentioning. Southern Democrats in office opposed seating him in the Senate. For the 2 days of debate, so it was 2 whole days of debate before this man could get his seat in the Senate over this Dred Scott thing. The Senate galleries were packed with spectators at this historic event. The Democrats based their opposition on the 1857 Dred Scott decision. This is what the Moors are touting. They only know about this because they don't know about subtleties connecting the dots with Alcorn State and Mealy Ill. By the US Supreme Court, which ruled that people of African ancestry were not and could not be citizens. They argued that no Asiatic of African descent was a citizen before the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868, and thus Revels could not satisfy the requirement of the Senate for 9 years prior citizenship. Supporters of Revels, and here's the unique piece that's pointing to the prophet, supporters of Revels made arguments ranging from relatively narrow and technical issues to fundamental arguments about the meaning of the Civil War. Among the narrow arguments was that Revels was of primary, he was indigenous, whatever, and that the Dred Scott decision could be interpreted as applying only to those of African ancestry. Supporters said that Revels, okay, here's the part that's subtle that I think speaks to the prophet. Supporters said that Revels had long been a citizen, as shown by his voting in Ohio, and that he had met the 9-year requirement before the Dred Scott decision changed the rules and held that people of his nationality could not be citizens. The more fundamental argument by Rebel supporters was that, okay, and this is where the Civil War wind smashes everything. But I thought that last sentence was interesting, that they were saying those who have been demonstrating their citizenship before the Dred Scott decision, unencumbered and unmolested by the powers that be, such as rebels. He was an example of someone who had such confidence in his citizenship. Since the Revolutionary War, his people have been free in the heartland of the Deep South, just walking free, that he had been voting before the Dred Scott decision. This is an area we Moors might want to study closer, the free people of color associated with Brother Revels. Peace.
Thank you very much, Sister Zafi. That is definitely on point. Definitely on point. Because I believe what happens is that our people have, because of the process of slavery and the laws that indicated that kind of separated us and hindered us from being participants, we forgot how much we were participants and how well we were connected into this nation. You know what I mean? So let me you talked about Dred Scott. Dred Scott decision, basically, according to the Britannica and its dissertation on what Judge Taney was basically saying, he made an egregious call in his dialogue. What do you say? Okay, he made an egregious call. They also go further to say that not only was it an egregious call, but why it was is because he overlooked key points that were constitutional, right? Article 4, Section 2, and other things, which, saying that, yeah, they were, if you were a citizen of a state, it included you in the Constitution. You know, this is where the idea where a lot of people say, well, you could be a citizen of the state and not a citizen of the United States of America. That's false. That's falsehood. That's falsehood. This is why some say the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional in a sense because it's not really needed. It's not really needed because it was already considered if you were a citizen of the state, it already included you into the Constitution on a national/federal level. Before there was a 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment in its entirety, because what it really was addressing was the newly slaves that were demoted in status to property, that now through generations they are free now. Where do they lie as far as their citizenship? You know what I'm saying? And not only them, but other people of different nationalities coming over. Where do they lie in their citizenship? That's what the 14th Amendment really is supposed to address. As far as its implication is the way people are trying to apply it or imply it is not necessary. It's unconstitutional. You know, it's unconstitutional in how people are trying to apply it. You know. So in Dred Scott, and we talked about this plenty of times. We talked about this bit of information. He was not the only one to have an opinion. Now, this is from, like I tell you, I keep references. This is Lincoln's Philosophy and Common Sense. Okay, you can find this on Amazon and so forth. See if I can read this. Y'all gotta excuse me because my laptop is still on the fritz. If I can get this to a decent size, I can avoid the line slashing through my screen from my clumsiness of damaging my screen. Oh wait, before I go in, Brother Yashua, you did have your hand raised. Would you still have? You like to share, please?
Islam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I rise and I give praise to Allah, the great God of the universe, and I give honors to the Prophet, and I give honors to Marcus Garvey, the forerunner of the Prophet, and I give honors to all to whom honors is due. I just wanted to camel back on what the sister was saying. I just wish she could have put in the chat box the references that she was making so I can copy and paste it for further research on my own. But the spirit of, as I understand it, in the Dred Scott case, the initial decision was won in the state court, but then the appellate court had reversed that, and then that's when they took it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the spirit of that Dred Scott is basically that no black man has it, as they put it, no black man has any rights that any white people bound to respect. And but I've always, I overheard a conversation when I was in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals dealing with a separate matter where they were making mockery of the 14th Amendment, how it's really not relevant, and people who come under it, their rights not really recognized to begin with. And I found that very interesting. And so when it comes to, that particular class of citizenship, as you notice, corporations are also citizens under the 14th Amendment. So what class of citizen is, is a so-called, what they refer to as Black. So, and of course, we know that the 14th Amendment is known as a war amendment. It was because of the war, and that it wasn't, from what I understand, properly ratified. But at this point, it's like neither here nor there. But I don't see Congress taking any steps or effort to correct the past error. Considering the decision that Judge Roger B. Taney had made. And you would think that, okay, we know the judicial branch, they can only interpret what the law says and make a decision on that. But the legislative branch of government is the one who can actually upend that, any enigma by coming up with a constitutional amendment or eliminating a particular law, through act of Congress. So, with that, I say peace.
Peace. Okay.
Yeah, it was just, did you want you wanted the connection to Brother Miliel, Brother Ya, or did you want the actual reading I just read? Which one? Did he want something from me? Did I mishear him? Sorry, peace.
No, he was just on the camelbacking off what you were saying, I believe.
Oh, okay. He wanted me to copy something into the chat.
I don't think so. I think he might have did something in the chat. Hold on, did he put something in the chat? No, well, I think, hold on.
Didn't you look it up on Wikipedia?
All of the above.
Okay, I have to send you the other document via another engine because it's a big dissertation, but I could just send you the Wikipedia. So on there of him being connected to Alcorn State.
You could send it in the text group.
Yes.
As well. Put the link in the text group as well, if you could.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Nope.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Pardon me, I'm at work, so that's why.
Oh, yeah, work?
Yeah, I'm at work.
Okay, all right. No problem.
I couldn't respond right away.
Oh, it's fine. Okay, thank you. In the chat, and then one in the text group. Thank you. Again, so we're discussing, and Brother Yeshua and Sister Zafia did a beautiful job adding their portion. I would say even to further camelback and just add some type of understanding is sometimes, spirit moves, the ethers move. And when you're doing something right, things are aligned in certain matters. Okay. If you ever heard of angel numbers or numerology, when you see combinations of numbers appear to you, it's usually they're saying something to you. Okay. Or something is resonating. So a lot of times where she's talking about, Sister Zafia is mentioning the president, HIRAM REVELS was the president of the university at Alcorn. And his thing, it was definitely within the spirit and the nature of things that was resonating at that time and in alignment with what the prophet was doing. So yeah, that means, a lot of times you look at these things, right? He might not have been exactly a member of the temple or whatever, but it only shows evidence that what the prophet was doing was right. And there was a message being resonated. Brother Yashua, you said you had something?
Islam, yes. And one thing I just also want to add was that there's there's history that's been kept out of the schools, showing when we were actually holding office. And it's like, and who was it? It was Glenn Beck, who actually did an expose on that. And he was saying, well, what happened? How come that no one is talking about this? And he was identifying, brothers and sisters who were in public office. And so what happened? So I think for those of us who's holding on to this knowledge or have it in our archives, we need to make it available, and it needs to be put out there. I mean, and that's why we need our own schools, because they're not going to teach it in their schools. And unfortunately, we have our children go to those schools. We put our children's care and safety in other people's hands who don't really have our best interests at heart. Peace.
Islam.
Yes, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
I would like to camelback off of the brother Yah as well. I have that book. I found it in Denver. It was a blue book. I found it in Denver. It was about the first I forgot the name of the book. I gotta look for it. For all the first Asiatic senators in like the 1860s, and it was like a bunch of them. And that brother that Sister Zafia was talking about is in that book, because when I seen it and I looked it up, just while she was talking about his name, I said, I've seen his face before. And it's in that book, and it's a whole bunch of them, and the book goes in detail. So I have that book. It's a blue book. I bought it for like $1. But if I can get my hands on it and my stuff and look through there again and see where it's at, I definitely will inform you. Islamism.
Islam. See, this right here, the brother should be in here, brother Eric. I don't know if he's at work himself, but Eric Rutherford Bay goes in real deep. This is like he did the study on what happened and why you have so-called Asiatic or so-called black senators during that time. And he said it was after the Civil War, and they implemented senators. Literally, the U.S. government established Asiatic senators in a lot of those towns. It was states. It was states. And that was basically because the non-cooperation of the Europeans, you know what I'm saying, from the southern states. So when you have like the overthrow of different governments in the South, that was really, and then you have the establishment of the Ku Klux Klan, that was really to distort political power from our people in the States. You know what I'm saying? So, we just want to make sure that we get the narrative right too, because some people will say, "Oh, let's see that we were in power. We were in power because it was almost like a slap in the face to the South, right? To those who fought in the Confederacy. It was just like, who fought for the Confederates? Like, the people that you want to slave, we're gonna put them in charge of you. How y'all like that? Y'all don't want to cooperate. You don't want to, you still got a chip on your shoulder. All right, well, here's a bigger chip to bear. Here's your state senator. Here's your House of state senators and representatives. So Eric can explain it a lot better. Maybe I ask him next week to come. If he's not working, I don't know if he's working. But Islam, go ahead.
Yeah, the brother that was talking about the book that he has, we definitely need it. We need to have a whole lot of copies of those in circulation. Please.
Yeah, if he can find that book, that'll be good. Even if he copies like potent pages or something like that, and we can just have a circulation. That'd be good.
And even, and going back to camelbacking on Sister Zafia Bay, I like the presentation of how you presented the Dred Scott, and that's something that really we need more of, for the younger generation in particular, because people need to hear, we need to hear this, and we need to go really in depth into research. And I think also we need to, as as part of civics, we need to know the law. They always say ignorance of the law is no excuse. So that's, something we have to really look at.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Who was speaking? I'm sorry, I didn't. Who was that?
That's Brother Yahshua.
Oh, okay. Praise Allah. I mean,
Praise Allah.
Islam, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for their participation.
Islam.
This is what we needed. People, please, we got a little segment, participate. We have, I want to read this from Lincoln's philosophy. Now, I actually have the book, but I can't find it. I got volume 1, but I can't find my volume 2. But that has this part, this pick, it has this part in here. I'm about to read now. This part supposedly is from the original. Okay, this is supposed to be from the original, from 1861, I think. All right. If I can read this, and it's entirety. Let me try to make it a little bigger. Down a little bit. Okay, there you go. I could try to make it work. Okay, Lincoln's philosophy. This is on page, this is volume 2, page 510. Lincoln's philosophy, common sense. Now, these are the words, remember, they talk about Chief Justice Taney, but they forget there's another Chief Justice Curtis. Okay, Curtis had a different opinion. He said the Union is much older than the Constitution. Islam, right? It was formed in part by the Articles of Association in 1774, right? It was matured and continued in the Declaration of Independence in 1776. It was further matured in the faith of all the then 13 states. Let's see, get that up. I think it's expanded, pledged and engaged. It should be perpetual by the Articles of Confederation in 1778. I'm trying to fill that word. Let me enlarge that real quick. So, and generally in 1787, it wanted to declare the objects for ordaining and establishing the Constitution is form a more perfect union. But if the destruction of the union by one or by a part only of the states by lawfully possible, the union is as before, the Constitution having lost the vital element of perpetuity or perpetuity. Yeah, I'm messing these words up because it's so blurry. Let me see if I can now. get up here. All right. It says Lincoln challenges Justice Taney's. It said, I have asked the substance that Dred Scott. Let me see if I can read it from my phone. And it better. That should have the joint. So I don't want to butcher it. Uh, 13 states expanded or expanded, whatever, yes, it was blurry. I said in substance that the Dred Scott decision was in part based on assumed historical facts, which were not really true. And I ought not to leave the subject without giving some, can't get that word, for saying that this, I therefore give is justice of, which I think wasted, Chief Justice Taney is delivering the majority opinion of the court, and at great length that that's actually, okay, here's the key part. If you go later on the paragraph, it says, on the contrary, Judge Curtis in his, I guess it would be dementing or delivering or whatever episode, that in fire of 13 states, to wit, it says Jersey, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York, North Carolina. There you go, North Carolina. Moors were voters, and proportions in their, it's real blurry. Sorry. All right, so the basis of this document, if you get the reference, it's not going to say Moors. It's not going to say Moors, because this thing has been re-edited more than one time. Okay. But what I'm trying to say, or what this document is saying, Chief Justice Curtis says that our people were free within the states. We voted, we participated in voting and the political process. We were even there for the signing of the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? So Justice Taney had overlooked all that. And Justice Curtis came in and said, wait a minute, you know, that's not what you're saying is not true. They were very instrumental in this country. They were citizens of this country, of this union. You know, that's why everybody talking about Judge Scott, it has no standing today. Because everyone knows.
Which judge was that? Who said that? Who knew his history? Who was this? Which judge said that?
Chief Justice Curtis.
Curtis. He knew the subtleties of history that pointed to this brother Hiram Rhodes Revels people. Yeah. And I think Prophet was pointing out too. I'm gonna look up Curtis, brother Curtis. Peace.
Chief Justice Curtis.
Islam.
Yeah.
So how come the case, all right, you said that the Dred Scott case has no standing. I hear what you're saying, but there seems to be factions of judges that don't seem to flow in that direction. Because, and I hear that they say, well, the 14th Amendment overturned the Dred Scott case. Well, since when does an amendment overturn a US Supreme Court precedent case? I don't think it works like that. Usually it would be through the judiciary call back or overturn its own decisions, like Roe versus Wade, Wade versus Roe,
Well, what we're saying is the implication of it has no standing. Dred Scott really the judgment of that is that
7-2 decision, right?
Dred Scott is a slave.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying the decision was a 7-2.
7-2 decision.
Right.
Right. So it was a 7-2 decision. What I mean, it has no standing. It means in all actuality, what the history states and who we are, it has no standing because it doesn't stand on truth or fact. It stands on really just the nature of what they were trying to establish at the time, which was they did not want us to be citizens. And you have two people, or not two people, but two states of thinking and opinions there. And this is why Justice Curtis had to mention his portion and his dialogue where he says, hey, they were a part of this nation. They are a part, and they've been part of this country.
I would like to get a copy of that.
Yeah, you can, like I told you, Lincoln's Philosophy and Opinions. You want to get volume 2.
Is that on Amazon?
Page 1 is on page 510. On page 510.
This is Lincoln. Okay, what's the name of the book again?
Lincoln's Philosophy and Opinions.
Okay. Philosophy.
And page 510 is where you're going to find it. It's not going to say more. It'll probably say Negro or colored.
Doesn't seem to pop up on Amazon.
Huh?
I'm trying to see if it's on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Lincoln Philosophy and Opinion.
Oh, Lincoln's Philosophy and Common Sense. I said. Sorry. Common Sense.
Philosophy and Common Sense. Yeah, I got it. I see it.
Yeah.
Hardcover.
Thinking about Marcus Garvey.
It shows three. It shows 3 volumes here.
Yeah, it is 3 volumes.
Okay.
Yep. You can go on AB Books, thriftbooks.com. They got it. They got 3 volumes here. Amazon. Looking at it.
Amazon is $78.
It's more than that. All 3 volumes is $135. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So
the good books, all the good
involvement. Huh?
Yes. All the good books, they'll probably push it up to $1,000.
Bro, yeah, Mo, the real juicy ones, the books with the good meat, man, them things be rent. That'd be 2 months rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, them jokers is high, man. You're looking at some books, you be like, what? How much? You know, I got, like I said, I got this book. I got this at a decent price. Now I went back to Amazon. There's one book I got right now. Hold on. Let me look it up now. Hold on. The Changing Role of Nationality. Changing Role of Nationality. And international law. I mean, it's 54 now. They just cut it back down, but it was 160. It went up to 160. When I got it for 24 something. 20. No, I got it for like 24, $25.
Islam.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the name of the book one more time? Abraham Lincoln's Philosophy and Customs, or
Common Sense.
And Common Sense. Okay.
Abraham. Analytical biography of a great mind.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes. And then in this book right here, this is for, man, look, this is when you really want to get into, you know, the idea of nationality. This book, The Changing Role of Nationality in the International Law and International Law. This book right now is at 54. It was cheaper than this, but it did shoot up to 160. You know, when you really get into these law books that actually be talking about what we're talking about, you know, and that lines, them things shoot up.
It would be nice if we have an MSTofA library.
Yeah, Allah willing. We have a budding history council, but we don't have a library yet.
Yeah, we don't have a library yet, but we're going to be collecting a lot of stuff, and hopefully, you know, we can put things into some type of share drive or something. People can have access to, you know, books, you know, PDFs and stuff like that. We can start with that. You know, the goal is to have when we get a physical home office, to actually have it as some type of library as well, to keep certain things, certain books and stuff like that for members to come in and look. You know, we want it to be like, you know, we also house members, host Temple One and grand meetings, and then also have like a library in there for everybody.
Now, the brother's asking about the connection. Do you all still have what Brother Bailey Ill was sharing with the scholar a few years ago with the was it eulogy or eulogy, handwritten eulogy? Do you all have that? Did you know of?
Handwritten eulogy?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And your history or archives inherited from Brother Bailey Ill? He's asking in the chat, but all I know is that this woman,
a handwritten eulogy?
She claims that Brother Bailey Ill told her, this PhD historian, I'm gonna send the brother, her name is Stephanie Ann Wilms. She says she through firsthand conversation with Brother Bailey Ill, prior when he rests in peace, that there had been a handwritten eulogy that he had set eyes upon that documented that Brother Bailey Ill attended Alcorn State University. So
we might have it. Yeah. I
okay.
wouldn't doubt I haven't seen it, but most likely that's we probably have it somewhere.
So Brother Dandridge Ill would know, or somebody who does the inventory for all the different records inherited from Brother Bailey Ill would know, or somebody?
Yeah, I can get in contact. I can get in contact and see if we have it, but it wouldn't be out in the open. It would be somewhere where we have to actually rubbish through to actually find. You know what I mean? Because they haven't been. I think some things were alphabeticalized. They might have to get re-alphabeticalized or recategorized.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be helping soon, so hopefully, inshallah, sometime this month or next month, I can take a trip
Oh,
and go through
oh,
that.
that'd be wonderful. Mm.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot of information that we're going to be going over and putting together. So but yeah, that's probably there because I know it's a handwritten eulogy for O. Lewis L. I got a copy of that.
Oh, if you can find the eulogy for Brother Merely Ill, that would be deep. That
Yeah,
would be
we're gonna find it's there. It's somewhere.
Allah
Yeah, it's
willing.
somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, stuff like that don't get thrown away. That's stuff that's has high value.
For us, definitely. For us knowing our history,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting on brother Devon to hit me up. Let's see what his schedule because I think is him being the secretary and everything. We're probably gonna go together. Um, I don't know. I gotta see how everything works because I'm in. Amazon got peak season. I was just like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But the nature of when I brought that document out, I wanted to show is that when the prophet says in the divine constitution bylaws, and this ties along with what you're saying, sisters out here, when it says part and partial, we say two words, part means belonging to, partial means favorite, or you're very respected. I'm partial to this person. You're partial to me. I'm grown partial of you, right? And that means I've grown to like you a lot. I've grown to favor you a lot. You know. So if I say I'm partial to said government, that means that I am not only I belong to the said government, but I also am in favor. What does that mean? What does that mean? Let's move forward and then we'll go back real quick with that. So part and partial, and know that you are not Negro, colorful, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. Okay. So these names that our people have are still even today identifying with stem from slavery, the era of slavery. So this is a contradiction. It's a contradiction for you to do this because in your true self, you are part and partial. You are favored as a citizen. Where does this go? What are we talking about? What term can I? And this is what Brother Dangersill threw my way. It's a term called hold on. Give me one moment. So I want to make sure I'm saying it right, and I'm not going to say the wrong thing. It's the most favored nation clause. Okay. or you can say most favored. Let's go to most favored nation real quick. You hit that. The most favored nation principle, it's a principle. It's based on the idea that countries should treat all their trade partners equally, that no one country should be more favored. It means no country should give special treatment to goods or services coming from a particular trading partner. Okay. This is the basis of, this is like one portion of what it is. But having, and it's dealing with trade, okay, but in finance. And majority of times when a treaty, the treaty of peace and friendship, treaty of, all the treaties mainly dealt with commerce. Okay. You being part and partial means that you were considered, or another term in a way, we're considered most favored nation. This is why the Ashkenazis and the Khazars had to impose an identity in order to basically have a status amongst the nations. Okay, it's a status amongst the nations. Brother Eddie Oxidine, he what did he do? He actually found some interesting. He's always on the Library of Congress website, and he found some good stuff, man. And look, he found the actual document from the Department of State where they actually documented in 1948 that they were going to recognize Israel as the Jewish state. The United States was going to, this is the United States saying they decided to recognize, be one of the nations that considered the Jewish state in Palestine, or what they know as Israel, right? The key thing, and this ties in even to what's going on with Kanye, Kyrie, all this anti-Semitism, is because if I can control the narrative or the identity, you know what I'm saying? The backlash, they're able to do these things, to demand Kyrie do this, is that. Already, the ability to cancel people, the ability to, even with brother, what's the name? Who got fired from CNN years ago for talking about Palestine? Let's get his name real quick. I don't know. No, it's BNN. Sorry, BNN. I know his name, or it's on the top of my head. Black Network. Black News Network. It's no longer even but the one caster, he's very famous. Hold on. He actually owns the Uncle Bobby's coffee and books cafe in Philly, which is a good I bet we actually did an event. I did an event with Tahaka, and he had we had an event. It was pretty good, decent. So basically, his name escapes me right now, but the person I'm talking about, he used to work for CNN. he made a comment about Palestine, and they ended up firing. They're working this whole idea of the Mark Lamont Hill. That's what it is. Mark Lamont Hill. Mark Lamont Hill is someone who got the lash of the Jewish state or the Jewish community for making a statement or being pro-Palestine. This is what a concept of, or the principle of favorite nations is like, don't mistreat me or treat me lesser than who you did. So if I did a deal, I'm treating someone else right, I got to treat you right. You asking for the most favorite nation treatment, or please apply the most favorite nation treatment to this agreement or to this transaction or to this deal. You know what I'm saying? This goes over international law, because when you're doing a business or trade with one nation, it means that whatever deal you cut with them and the nature that you're doing it with, you do the same with other nations. When nations are asking for that call, the issue with Noble Drew Ali making us a nation within a nation and establishing a body politic is for us to receive such treatment as a people instead of receiving mistreatment. So when you proclaim to be Moorish American, you're connecting yourself back to your Moorish heritage, and anything that's doing Moorish has to deal with the nature and legacy of what the Moors left, meaning those treaties. Okay. Now, I'm saying, because treaty is a detail dealing with particular particular context, whether it be the treaty, Triple E, treaty, this one and that one, okay, that's for that particular state. But what we're saying is the nature of the people, who the people were, or who we were. Whether you might be a more, whether you be for just, Italy, Morocco, whatever. We're saying that the people in Tripoli, people in Algiers, people in Morocco, we're the same people. Those are Moors, we're Moors. So what we're saying is, just as you treated, that's how our people were favored in those situations. Favor us the same when dealing with us. Okay. Okay. So Islam. So now this is you can see how why the Jews are moving, or the so-called Jews are moving the way they're moving, is because they are trying to maintain the most favored nation status.
Islam.
Islam, go ahead.
When you was mentioning part and partial,
Yes.
and that you was going into it, now that's out of the divine constitutional Bible.
Right.
But and I think we probably had this discussion before in the Quran question for Moorish Americans. Of course, it uses part and parcel. Can you elaborate on that? Please.
Well, okay, parcel, part and parcel, right?
It's an Act 6.
Mm-hmm. An additional law. Be an essential feature or element of. An essential or integral component. Stress was part and parcel of the job. Okay. So the divine constitution of bylaws, and then you have the additional bylaws. What's the difference between the additional bylaws and the divine constitution of bylaws? The difference is that one is for the outward public. It's how we engage ourselves, and it pertains to the outward. The other is dealing with the more internal governmental functions. Okay. The additional laws are dealing with the inner workings and certain ideas, certain practices of the temple between the sheiks. Okay, for example, Act 1, grand sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Ali. Boom. Must. Right? Is that word must is there? That makes it obligatory. Before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice finance that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former
Islam.
officer. Yeah, hold on, let me finish, please.
Mm-hmm.
Any former officer that violates the laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheik. So this is dealing with even more intricate into the internal governing aspect of the organization. So when you go to Act 6, it says, with us, all members must proclaim the nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality, that their divine creed, and that they know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, Ethiopians, and it goes forward. It says part and parcel. It means is that you're not only part and partial, but you're part and parcel. Part and parcel means you're more of an integral part. You're an integral part in this government. That you are the integral element to this government.
Islam, sometimes that word is associated with
land.
Yeah. Some people interpret it as being part of the estate or land.
Yeah. Estate, the more science simple America, the way it's set up, every member, see, remember the sheiks are the trustees. Okay. The sheiks are the trustees. That means that we're responsible for maintaining the nature, maintaining the overall well-being of this organization, of this corporation. Okay. That's our duty. But the beneficiaries are the members. Islam. So that's how it unfolds. And being part and parcel means that you are not only a part, but that together you are a vital element. Every member is a vital element for this organization. Because even if okay, so look, let's look at Act 4.
Islam, where does it say partial? Which
Parcel, sis, you gotta get your questionnaire. You have your question. Go on the back to the additional bottle.
Right. Which act?
Act 6.
Act 6.
Parcel. 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 Part and parcel.
Can you read that line one more time that you're referring to?
It says, Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government.
Okay, they must have changed it with the Kirkman Bay version of it. So they changed it to a T to be consistent. I only have
an additional act and additional laws.
right now I only have the one I got from the Kirkland Bay cartel. So
Okay.
they changed it.
Okay, they might have changed it, but I know ours. It stems from our questionnaire. Actually, comes anytime when we print our questionnaires and our Qurans. They're coming from copies from actual Emilio, his actual Quran and questionnaire from his own, the
Inshallah.
one he owned.
Yeah, I found census 1930 census data. He opened the door and told them he worked for the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's all confirmed. He had his in-laws visiting, his wife's parents visiting. It's all there, you know, for anyone to see. Praise Allah. They misspelled it, and probably intentionally. They misspelled Moorish census takers, but he told them who he was. So peace. He had his document.
Did you share that in the signal chat already?
No,
Or?
I could share it. I just looked it up like last week, and it was right there.
Okay.
He opened
If you could put in the signal real quick so I can look at it, and then I'll make it available for everybody.
Okay.
Islam, yeah, I noticed too, coming from Temple 54, C. Kirkman Bayside, that the, as they call it, Circle 7, you know, the Moorish Holy Quran and the Quran question, there are some slight variations and differences if you was to go line from line. Even the page numbering is somewhat different as well.
Wow. Yep. That's important to note where the differences are for newcomers.
Say that again. What's different for the Kirkland Bay?
What like I have the C. Kirkland Bay, you know, from being in Temple 54.
You have a what?
And the Quran questionnaire, but there's some slight changes, just like with the parcel, but in the C. Kirkland Bay questionnaire, it's part and partial.
Yep, it sure is. So these are things to take note of for like when newcomers are coming from that cartel. You can say, oh, we already know where the differences are. You guys need to get a version straight from Nearly Ill because they changed it. You know, they changed it. So maybe they have a little committee to like look for the different changes. Just so for your record.
Definitely.
Huh?
Yeah, definitely. If have a group of people come together and just kind of like sift through line by line and be able to identify what the differences are. I'm quite sure you have people who've already done it and they got their own notes to that, but everyone else needs to know that as well.
Right. Man, look, I appreciate you guys. I never really knew.
I mean, one thing
I knew we changed some things, but I didn't know that in detail, you know.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out is that, like, for example, on the C. Kirkman Bay side, they hyphenate their, the Moorish title ELO Bay. And one of the questions I wanted to bring up to the branch, for that on that side, as you call it, the cartel, the cartel is that, well, when you, even in their Quran question, and you look on the back, none of those Moors got hyphen in it. So, why C. Kirkman Bay has hyphens when the bird questionnaire they read from on the back doesn't have that. But, I just kind of like left it.
I had a firsthand experience with that in the temple. There's flagship temple in DC about the hyphenations. It's a big deal. Okay. The wife of the National Grand Sheik got all up in my face about it. Apparently in their tradition, it was so that the Europeans couldn't, or the unconscious Asiatics, whoever's doing the filling out forms used to like passive aggressively try to drop off the ill or bay from the title. So as like a protection to kind of say, look, when names are hyphenated, legally, that's the full name. Don't drop it off. They felt that they needed to adopt that tradition, because I had to learn that the hard way. Peace.
Yeah, it got so, the movement's been so much topsy-turvy on certain things, man. Like, people really think certain things are just across the board, or they're not. I'm not going to totally knock the ink for doing that completely, because in the way certain people's database systems are set up nowadays, they're gonna, it's hard for them not to hyphen something. You know what I'm saying? Because they say, "Oh, well, I got a hyphen," in order for it to connect, in the system and so forth. So, some people is like that. I got mail. I got mail from somebody, I forget who, but my L is hyphen, to Parker, and they had to do it. As far as they said it's in their system, they got to do it. I think it's my bank. My bank. They said they had to put the hyphen in. You know what I mean? Like, because they said they won't really connect. It will just be Terrence L. If so forth. So, let me look at this up. What in the world
Islam?
did I just say? Islam, go ahead.
I wanted to camelback on a thought. The reason why, one of the reasons why, or at least one of the reasons how about that? One of the reasons how they use it would be based upon the resolution that was passed in Philly. If you read the resolution on it, it says that the names, the certain names are sometimes, I think it's the wording on it is appendix or something it says on there, denoting that when you add the bay, which is the title anyway, the bay and the L is the title, is being hyphenated. Now, I know that on the documentations of the prophets and everything like that they weren't through now studying, but on that actual resolution that was passed in the House of Congress in Pennsylvania in like 1930, saying like 1930, 1933, resolution, was it 75? So Islamism.
Oh yeah, you talking about the House Joint Revolution?
Yes.
75. Yeah.
Yes.
1975? Or what year? I want to look that up.
No, it's called the Joint House Resolution 75.
Oh, and it was passed when?
It wasn't. It was passed. It wasn't. It wasn't ratified.
Oh.
But it was
Islam.
passed.
Islam. It was. I have it on document too. I went to Philly.
Wow.
I mean, matter of fact, I went to Harrisburg. You can get it in Harrisburg too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
What
it
year
was passed,
ratified?
but it's not. It wasn't passed into. It wasn't like law.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta look at it.
What is the general year of that action?
1933.
You said the 1933. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. It's in Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah, you can go to you gotta go to the Pennsylvania State. And they got, I think I got a PDF of it.
Because see, stuff like that, and then the More Sundry Act, and then how they handled HIRAM REVELS. See, this is the little tidbits. We Moors who are in the right lineage, the direct lineage, once we understand, like, if you stay under Millie Ill, there's little breadcrumbs. Look at Millie Ill's past before the temple. Look at where he went to school. Look who headed up that school. Look at where the prophet was born. And we start to connect to the deeper history. two, on top of the spiritual religious civics, and we got this thing that Pimenta Bay was talking about, the More Sundry Act. They didn't ratify that act. That's true. A lot of this stuff was under the table, not ratified, informal, whatever, but it's still documented. It's still documented that they actually had these conversations. And that's noteworthy to us. You know what I mean? Please.
Please. Now, I have here, I pulled up what they call the Inquisition law of 1621. And we know the Spanish Inquisition and so forth, but there was laws that came after, like completely after. And in this law, Supreme Grand Sheik actually put me on to this. It was a rule passed. I don't know if because sometimes they don't go in detail what it is, but it's the Inquisition law. Let's see, 22. Promote and safeguard faith. Blasphemy and slavery. Well, I'll just say this. This law, particularly, it banned people from identifying as Moors or Jews. Once they converted to Christianity, they had to take on a new identity. There were a lot of people who just converted just to convert, and they weren't fully converted. They just proclaimed to be Christians, but practiced Islam, practiced Judaism, but they could not identify as a Moor or a Jew.
Islam. I have a question about that. So is that to imply, therefore, that to identify as a Moor in that time and place was synonymous with identifying as a Muslim? Is that why they had to change their name? Peace.
Yeah. Well, here's a concept. It wasn't necessarily, and a lot of people got to understand, they were at war with, the Muslim world at that time still, with the Crusades. Okay. And, but the underlying issue is, were they really after Muslims or were they after our people? Because the reason why, and this is a concept idea, is that if I get you not to identify as a Moor or a Jewish, that means I keep you from out of the context of international law and protection of, from other, from those Moorish states,
Wait. So you're saying that the lines started to get blurred between religion and divine nationality, aka race, at a certain point.
Yeah.
Okay. Peace.
Yes. Because historically, if you look at Muslim scholars, they'll say, well, Moor and Muslim were synonymous. They were the same thing. If you were Muslim, you were Moor. Yeah. That's not true. Because if you dive deeply into Moorish history and you talk to scholars like Jose Pimenta Bay and even Dana Marnici Reynolds, they'll tell you that that's not true. they became synonymous because most of the Moors adopted, or they were practitioners of Islam heavily.
Right, right.
Matter of
That's what
fact, to the
I'm saying.
point where they were like the central,
Yeah.
on the west
I,
side, they were the central authority.
no, no,
It
I
wasn't
understand.
like that. Huh?
No, I understand that in general, to be of Moorish descent does not necessitate being a Muslim, but I'm just saying in that social context and chapter in history, because all they saw of people of Moorish descent coming to Spain was people who also associated with Islam. It
Yeah,
became a stereotype
yeah,
piece.
absolutely. That's what I was trying to reiterate that you were saying, or what you were trying to imply. That's all. And
Oh,
absolutely. And I was
okay.
just saying, what I'm trying to tell you is that in the Muslim scholarship, Islamic scholarship, they will say that Moor and Muslim are the same thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what Muslim
Oh, oh
scholars.
no. The Moors predate. We go back over 10,000 years. We go
Yeah, but
back.
we know that. Well, I'm just saying what Islamic scholarship would say. You know, a lot of people don't understand. Like, even though, and this is what a lot of Muslim brothers and sisters won't admit, that there's still an European imperialism existing in Islam. Because even the Muslims are trying to do away with the identity of the Moors on a secret level. They don't want to talk about the identity part. They just say, well, this is Muslim Spain, Islamic
Oh
Spain.
no, they do not do that.
They do that.
Mm, mm, mm.
I got a book called Divine Governance by Ibn Arabi. Listen to what I'm saying. This book is a translation of Ibn Arabi's work on the matter of man being the vicegerent on the planet Earth for Allah. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the commentary, or the I don't want to say commentary, not the acknowledgement, the prefix, or whatever you want to say, the preface of the book. In the preface of the book, the guy who wrote it, he's a sheikh, supposedly. I know somebody who was his disciple. He translated the book, and actually he was there at the Islam. They don't even have it no more. But Philly used to have an Islamic conference in the at the convention center downtown Philly. I don't even know if they still have it. But it'll be beautiful to go. Maybe maybe next year, if they have it, we can do a trip or something. We all go. But they have this conference. So if they had this conference, I was in there. Just even Muslims are there. And the brother was there, and I knew, and they said, "This is my sheikh," and he said, "My sheikh writes." He wrote, the book Divine Governance. He translated, and I was like, "Oh man, it's one of my favorite books." So I love the book, whatever. And while I noticed that in the book, he says, he calls Ibn Arabi a Spanish Arab.
No, he was a Moor.
Absolutely, he was a Moor,
Mm-hmm.
because his family came from Cordoba. Cordoba was a very heavily, it was southern Andalusia. And if you want to argue Arabian and all that, and being in Andalusia, cool, but you cannot deny historically and factually that Cordoba was a majority Moorish, so-called African city or town, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? And
The deeper thing
where
about
even Arabi's family come from. That's where they come from.
but that gets to the deeper thing Dana Marnichi's hinting at, which is that even the Yemeni roots of the so-called Arabs of Saudi Arabia, as she told Lord Abba a few years ago, when she was in New York, it was people saying they was coming from the heartland of the heart of Saudi Arabia, looking like straight African people, but they had big bones. They were huge. But she said they looked like they were African, and she didn't even really believe that they were from where they said they were from.
Yeah.
So I think that Dana Marnichi's getting at is that there were Moorish looking people in terms of us being over the sense of a Moor of like over 10,000 years old, our deep olive hue, the classic Moorish look. She said they were chilling. They still are chilling in the heartland of Saudi Arabia, looking like they came straight to Africa. So the so-called Arabs, that whole history from her perspective, I think she's questioning what those people originally looked like. And so that's a deeper level, because that would mean, from our definition, that the so-called Arabs, the original ones, were what we would call Moors. Peace. So either way you go with Ibn al-Arabi, either way you go, you know, we got something for him once you bring in Dana Marnichi's analysis that up to about 500 years ago, all those locations was full of people we would call, never mind, she don't necessarily call them all Moors, she calls them the BLACK word. We would call them Moors. Peace.
Absolutely. Now here's an idea. I follow Tyrese Gibson, the singer Tyrese, or actor singer, and I believe him and a few other guys. I forgot who else. I don't know if it wasn't Will Smith. He went with Will Smith, was over there too, but they went to Saudi Arabia. Because they've been to Dubai, but this time they were in Saudi Arabia, and they found he went live, and he had this guy right next to him, and he said, "I want the people to see you, brother, to show what you look like, because this brother looked like he one of my cousins from back home in Watts, you know."
Okay.
And the brother looked like he could be related to one of us, like for real. Like I seen, and he ain't the only one. I seen another picture of somebody from Saudi Arabia, you know, that looked like one of our people. Like if you took away whatever accent clothes, whatever, you put on red clothes, and he walk in and he don't say nothing, you think he one of us.
Wow.
Yeah, they're still there. You know, they're still there. This is what rest in peace, Dr. Ranoka Rashidi's work, where he was trying to go forth, and he was trying to, you know, I have an idea. And this is what I want to do in the future when I get some bread, man. I love comedy. Okay. And maybe you guys can help me do this in the future. I love comedy. I love stand-up comedy, real good stand-up comedy. You know, I'm all for it. And I believe laughter is one of the healing and the uniting factors, you know, just in people in general. Because if I can make you laugh, so I think Dave Chappelle is probably one of, if not the greatest comedian, but one of the greatest comedians ever. Because back in college, he came to our college, Rowan University, and he performed. And I never seen a diverse audience. Like, not saying Rowan is not necessarily, it's segregated in a sense. It's segregated. And that segregation is because we don't relate to each other. The European students and the so-called African-American students don't really relate to each other in a sense. Even the so-called Latino, they usually gravitate towards us. If you're going to see them, you're going to gravitate towards us. Now, you only get like a very sprinkled pinch of people, of our people that go to the Europeans it's probably because majority of times they grew up in that setting. So they felt more safer with a more around the European, pale skin European group. So they'll join the fraternities, whatever. But when Dave Chappelle came, the stadium was packed. I mean, the theater or the concert hall was packed. And it was basically almost the whole student body come to see Dave Chappelle. Okay. And everyone was laughing. I had never seen somebody who could really make a whole audience of whether you're whatever race, color, your ethnicity, whatever it is, he's going to make you laugh. Okay. So here's my idea. And I'm throwing this out there, this little sidebar. If that can be done on a consistent basis where you get comedians from like different parts within the so-called Asiatic, Afro-Asiatic or African diaspora to perform comedy. So if a person is Jamaican, or Haitian, or Puerto Rican, Dominican, or African, have them all on one stage perform, and they're telling jokes. And within the jokes, like you invite all different people from different part of our communities. And we come and we just laughing together at everything. You know what I'm saying? So somebody might imitate the African or whatever, doing impressions. They making fun of us, we making fun of them, but it's all out of love. And at the end, you know what I'm saying? At the end, it's like, all love. So I think that's one thing I would love. That's gonna be like one of my, like, how people got bucket lists. That's like a high list I want to put together one day, at least before I leave this plane, is just have that. And that'll be a perpetual event carried on. Like, you know what I'm saying? That, we have like some type of international, pan-African international comedy joint, you know what I'm saying? Where everybody's just, all the good comedians come, from different parts of our diaspora, and they come and do their thing and throw down. You know what I'm saying? Because I noticed there are some mixed, like there's one, her name is Tara. She's a sister, but she's her ethnicity is African American and Nigerian. You know what I'm saying? So you got, if you ain't got Godfrey, you got these other people who've actually mixed. Like Tara, she's mixed. She's her, I guess her father's Nigerian, her mother's African American. And her comedy's crazy because she can relate to the Nigerian side and she can relate to the African American side. She mostly appears to the African American side, but she still throws down. She's funny. You know what I'm saying? So, this is something like, I'm just going on, but as one of my lists. Somebody said something? Sorry.
Yeah, Islam's Joshua. Something I just wanted to share with everyone, and it's basically camelbacking on some of the things we spoke about previously. There's a book that I became aware of some time ago, and when it was first offered, the amount of money was ridiculous, and it was on Amazon. Obviously, has dropped, but then I wonder if the reason why it dropped because the content may have been changed because it's based upon archaeological find. And you may have heard of this by Dr. David, by David Imhotep. And
yeah, David Imhotep.
It's called The First Americans Were Africans. And and based upon, right, and he dated, and his dating went back to over 50,000 years. Because I recall in one session under the Sea Kirk Bayside, when, even though we say 10,000 years, it's even more than that. And they said that, we can go back as far as 50,000 years. Well, when you talk about the Great Earthquake, how far back was that? Before it created the Atlantic Ocean. So, and some are saying much further back.
Atlantis. It was the Atlantis for the longest, and then all of a sudden there was a sea change and it became Atlantic. I think it's more a rupture in the shared rock of understanding mentioned in chapter 7, because I think the earthquake of Pangea you have to reconcile that that happened before we even decided to incarnate in the flesh, if we're looking at the Europeans' chronology. But I understand what you're piece.
Yeah, I would say if you
I
want to
would
know how
like to
long,
explore that.
how old that is, Google how old is the Atlantic Ocean.
Thank
Just
you,
Google,
brother. Thank you.
Google how long is the Atlantic, how old is the Atlantic Ocean, and you'll kind of got a rough idea how far back that goes. I believe it's like 180 million years.
Right. And we created this manifest. So we were here from day one in in terms of spirit man and soul man, but we didn't choose to incarnate into the painting that we painted until about the Europeans dating says about 4 or 5 million. But
Right.
that, we know from our metaphysical understanding that we were here from day one, because we are the ones who manifested the plane of things made manifest from being on the boundary of the plane of soul. Peace.
Peace.
I'm looking for right now.
Yeah.
Islam.
Islam, go ahead.
I was busy looking for this this definition. Well, I have a old. I took a picture of it a while ago, out of one of these old definitions. Islam.
Good, bro.
And in it, it has a picture of one of us, Asiatic Moor, but it says underneath it says Arab. Also, I have another picture, and it's a drawing of it's definition of Asian. The picture of us on it too. So yeah, I mean, we known all over the place, and we went by all of them. Cause like you said, like the sister said, first Islamism.
Islam. I just wanted to elaborate further. The date that comes up, of course, like to cross-reference, because I just won't, sit with this, but it shows approximately 135 to 150 million years old.
Islam, peace. Then look up the first Homo sapien, or the first hominids, and they'll tell you about 5 million years ago, around the time of this. There's a whole documentary called Discovering Artie, talking about when we chose to incarnate in the flesh and stand upright to show that transition into the flesh. So that's dated. They found this out in 2009. They published a whole bunch of papers, and they put out this documentary called Discovering Artie. You can find it on Amazon, ARDI. And it is pretty profound, because it talks about a choice that a female of the prior iteration that we worked with, our canvas, she had an epiphany that she preferred a more genteel approach if she was going to reproduce, and she stopped participating in the rough and tumble of the big fanged, intimidating male dance. She wouldn't let the winner mate with her. And it wasn't until a male figured out, an Adam like male had the epiphany, I need to court this sister. I need to bring her gifts to show her that I care, that humankind fully incarnated. He started to stand upright, him and his brethren, to bring more and more gifts to the females like her. They needed both hands. So peace, I'm just saying, it's a beautiful, profound story how we incarnated into the flesh, but very few of our people, or any of the masses, are aware of that beautiful story because of the nature of imperialism.
Islam, just camel back off that. Does that have, and correct me if I'm wrong, because there's so much learning to be learned. Does that has anything, or is it in relationship to the sons of God coming onto the daughters of men type of thing?
I'm not sure of that story, so I don't know if there's a parallel, but I do know that in 2009, the European scholars who made this connection, because before this, the Europeans didn't have a decent theory as to why, once we incarnated into the flesh, the human lineage started standing upright. It was like to see over the grass once you left the savannah, but it was like so many creatures leave once you leave the woods to see over the grass for predators. It was like it wasn't very meaty of an explanation. And then in 2009, I just put it into the chat. They published this theory, new discovery, that based on the canines shrinking of the males started a different mating tactic where they were more courting the sisters than fighting each other for dominance. Because there was a certain branch of sisters that were not appreciative of that anymore, because the dominant male then killed her babies after he won. And she wasn't feeling it because that was her human epiphany. She's like, I can choose that I don't feel that. So even if you do win that contest, Mr. Rough Male with the big fangs, I'm not going to let you mate with me because you just killed my babies. That was her opinion. And she was going to take that to her grave. She just wasn't going to mate anymore until another type of male arose and had a calling. And it occurred to him, I have to court this type of female. I have to actually study her and empathize and bring her the things that I noticed, oh, she hasn't eaten yet, or her child hasn't. Instead of killing her child, I need to show her that I can be a safe haven for her child and bring more into the world for her. And that's a beautiful story. But is it out to the masses? Not at all.
See, and what I try to do, you know, as a scientist, because we're all scientists, is correlate that with the chapter, you know, chapter 1, the fall of man. You know, it goes kind of like into the physics, you know, of, you know, how
chapter 11 too.
Oh yeah, that's definitely. And so you know, you look at that, how the fall of man, it's like whatever we are on the higher planes, obviously when we come into this physical, we become individuated, or we take on a polarity, which becomes a complementary part of the whole, male and female. You know, because you hear I mean, even in the Christendom, you know, for those who is into the Bible, they speak of in the image of God created he, male and female created he, them. There doesn't seem to be any distinction, you know, with one, you know, it's like side by side, and you see that in the ancient Kemetic culture as well, in their cosmology. So
I definitely believe that there was a psychic connection between that first, and the Quran in Mecca calls it the oddball. And it says something about don't underestimate the oddball, those who are odd, because there's something special. So that sister was willing to be an oddball. All of a sudden, without verbally saying it, she stopped mating. The other female still was mating with the victor. And then there was an oddball brother, and there was a psychic connection. It was a connection from the soul plane, how he understood how to help that sister. And that's how our lineage started to stand upright, because it was like a shift.
You got a lot of sisters still mating with the rough dude winning the fight.
But that's what I'm saying. They don't want the females to be empowered by this information. So what do? They bury it under a whole bunch of distractions. Because what does Satan say? Where are you going, Satan? I'm going to and from the earth, seeking who I might devour. That includes whose attention span I might devour, who I might
take care.
You know, who I might distract from the truth. You know, if they slip it, I'm tipping. That's what the lower self is always looking to do. So we got to get this to people so we understand this is how we chose to incarnate. This is the love story by which we chose to finally finish up this painting, this masterpiece, and incarnate into the flesh. So this is an ancient tradition, this, you know, civilized courtship thing. And sisters need to know that especially, okay? Because this is the expectation of the two founding parents that first incarnated, from which all of us are varying iterations. That's the proper approach. Peace.
Peace. Okay.
You know, the part that, I mean, it's, sometimes I have to refer to the old one, but I know you know, when I look at in the circle 7, when the part with Christ where it says that the body is manifest of soul, but soul is without its manifest. And in the realms of souls, unmanifest, he went and taught. And then, I ponder that, in what is actually going on there. And then the story continues back into the physical. And then there's a part where in the other chapters, it talks about how he can cross the borderline at will. And I try to be as objective, because is he talking about, he's like changing there's something that he's able to do, but he said that this is what we could do too. And he's come as the demonstrator of the power of man. And that man and God is one. So I'm like, the thing is if we always existed, and there was a time when we didn't need to have a physical as we have now, that we was always there, because the thoughts of Allah are infinite, and we're not, and so that part of us that is infinite is not measured. So I'm trying to, I guess, sometimes our logistical mind on this level is not sufficient to really, comprehend, unless we enter into that meditative state. Because, even the journey of Christ was in India. He spoke with the Brahms, the river of the Brahms, that's the Ganges River, and how he went through all these different trials, all these different trials to be tested and to, I guess, cultivate. And I think that's why I went into little Hinduism, but you never can escape it, because there are certain techniques that are, that actually helps you to get further in your cultivation. I mean, we constantly work on ourselves, and I don't mean to be jumping all over, but when it talks about masterminds can trace themselves back through the ages, well, how do you become a mastermind? And in order to do that, you have to be in a meditative state. The body's can't do it. So it's the thing is, I'm trying to, I guess, take everything into consideration as far as how is it that, I mean, we know that for me to be here in the physical, I came through my mom's. She prepared a suit of clothing for me for that 9-month period. And so like, essentially the woman is the stargate into this physical world. So, but this is so much we don't know, and things that I'm endeavoring to want to know, because it's a high science. The little that I know is practically nothing compared to what's really out there. So I'm always open. Peace.
Peace. Wow. Definitely, both of you guys definitely, the portions are definitely deep. When you're dealing with that information, with something called remote viewing, which can be developed. And remote viewing is where you can have visions of things and events without even being present, physically present. It's one thing I believe the Prophet Abu Drali was able to do. He was able to develop his ability to remote view in certain situations. And he was able to see in the future, not in the future, but in the past, sorry, in the past. And this is why you get chapter 48. And I think the way the remote viewing goes about, this is what I think. And it's only from situations where I've stuff I read, stuff I've seen, and you got to have an element though. You can't just remote view randomly. You got to have something to reference from, and then boom, you can go in. Okay, so I think the prophet did study things of history, but somehow in his meditation, he was able to pull it together, to pull it together and put it in a sense where it's understood. But the way the prophet writes, he writes like he writes like a pop-up book. A pop-up book. Remember you being little and you had pop-up books where you would open the page, and we open the page, the thing will pop up, you know what I'm saying? The page will pop out, and then you can move different things. You pull this little thing and this part come out. You put it back, this person will come out, wave high, then you pull it down and it'll go away. Like it becomes animated when you pull different parts of the page. I think the prophet writes like when I look at chapter 47, it kind of is like a pop-up book, because it's like when you study particular parts of 47, you begin to see that he's pointing you to a direction to look at. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about the Jews and the Hebrews, and you got to ask yourself, why didn't the prophet mention Jew or Hebrew in chapter 48?
Because they were of Moorish descent. He already mentioned the Moors. They were dirty Moors. Peace.
Well, not really. What I mean, Hebrew. Okay, you want to say Jews might have been the dirty Moors? Maybe
Right,
they weren't.
right. That's what I'm saying. But they were kindred. They just intermarried with others. That's why they look different. But some of them have afros sometimes. You could tell the throwbacks.
Okay. Let's go back. He says ETC. So they're included. But the reason why he's not, and this goes in what you're saying, he didn't emphasize it because they were a small portion of the greater community. Remember, the Canaanites were segmented in different tribal nations.
You can trace the language of Hebrew back and you get Moors. They were a branch of the Moorish family. They were Asiatics, but they were specifically of the Asiatic Moorish family.
Yeah, I'm going off of Sister Donna Marnichi's what she says as well, because she lines it up, and it lines up beautifully when you talk about the Canaanites. And you talk about how the Hebrew language is not even a distinct language. It's a dialect. It's only a dialect of the Canaanite language.
Yep. That's a Moorish language. It comes from
Morocco. We say Moorish because I want to make sure that we connect it right, because when I say Moorish, remember the word Moor from more of a contemporary sense comes from the word Mori, and the Mori people of Libya. And that name
I mean like over 2,000 years ago, like the Moorish seafarers, the Moabites. I'm talking about
the
when
seafarers, you're talking about the Phoenician Canaanites. They're all Canaanites.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those were Moors.
Exactly. They were Asiatics. We use the word Asiatic. Because the temporary Moor, when we say Moor, we kind of use it as an ethnicity to describe the experience of North Africa and Northwest Africa. But when we take it back before they traversed into Northwest Africa and North Africa, then they were in the land of Canaan. When they were in the land of Canaan.
They were the Moabites from that land, right?
Yeah, Moabites, but how many other tribes?
That was the seafaring, that was the seafaring tribe, the Moabites. Peace.
You sure it was the Moabites?
Well, they were known for being seafarers, I know. Wasn't it? Oh, not the biblical ones with Lot. But I thought the Moabites were known for
Phoenicians?
Yeah, no?
The Phoenicians?
Oh, the Almoravids, the Moabites and Moabites. That's what Brother Lord Abba connected the dots of. Because
Almoravids
debate.
Almoravid was a dynasty and named in Andalusia.
Right, but they were named. See, there was a big debate online, people taking things literally and didn't take any phonetics or linguistics. They didn't realize that the letter B and the letter V can be interchanged in the oral tradition, because depending on your accent, it sounds similar. Until I have to give honors to Lord Abba, because he did his research and published a book documenting that the European scholars of that time and age referred to what we would have called the Almoravid movement descendants. And they were people coming from the Senegal area looking like olive skin Moors up in Spain and Europe. They referred to them as Moabites.
Right.
So that's how the circle got finally connected, and everybody dropped it online. All those Sinetta people that were making fun of, oh, how could you connect Moabites with the Moors? Once Lord Abba published that book, you don't hear a peep from those people, because he has citations and everything. Pace.
Well, I want exactly, and I want to say this as a sidebar note regarding Sinetta. And I'm when I get a chance to talk to Sister Dinah Marnici, I'm gonna encourage her, and I don't want to kind of be like whatever, Sinetta, but I think we're as a people, we're growing out of the Sinetta era. So I don't think a well scholar like Sister Dana Marnici should really entertain being on Sinetta. I don't think people should debate anybody or even really engage Sinetta's audience, because they're not really those dudes. You're dealing with a lot of mental masturbation and people who are not really into actual truths of scholars. Basically my opinion is right, what I know is right, yours is wrong. Let's debate, and then it gets into like some smack DVD type of stuff. I'm saying that whole nature of it became, and I remember when Sinetta, when it at early ages, or the early times when Sinetta was back in the early 2000s, it wasn't like that. You go in there, you present your information. This is before YouTube, when they were, he was just filming at Soul Brothers Boutique in Harlem. And yeah, all the people come present the information. You get DVDs on this one, that one. Different notable scholars will come and talk and stuff like that. And it wasn't, about no debate. Nobody was debating to nobody. Everybody respected everybody's information. It all connected a lot of times. And it was a beautiful, you wanted to be a part of that, because that information was something that you grasped to, and Sinetta was providing that. He was providing the venue. Now, since, it became such about money, and he found out that these debates, they racked up more dollars, than anything. So his platform almost became like a URL or some type of, battle rap thing. But instead, cats are just battling away information. They talking about each other, mama, and all that stuff. It became childish. And it's just like, no, come on, man. So I encourage you, I ain't even worried about what Sinetta say. I mean, I know back in the day, that's what he was doing, and they coming out the Moors and all that. That comes tiring. And I do respect Lord Abbott for stepping up, and others who stepped up, even Taharka for stepping up, for knocking, but after a while, man, I don't even deal. People be talking about, oh, you don't listen to this one or that one. Why? Like, I mean, I just can't stomach really listening to some of them dudes. It's just like, and I'm not saying none of them are bad, but it's just like after a while, I was like, man, that stuff, I've been there, done that. I met Sinetta a few times, and I've been up in Harlem, spoke to them dudes. I just like after a while, when you meet other scholars and if you're actually reading the books, if you're actually researching and doing your own research and your own knowledge, it's like, yo, you looking at everybody else and you like, oh, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Great.
Like,
We have the Moorish Sundry Act as narrated by Pimienta Bay. We have Hiram Revels, Roads Revels, and we have this 1933 stuff. We could build a curriculum and a community. We could start building.
That's the goal, and that's what we want to do. That's why I'm trying to have at the end. What's it? At the end of this Thursday, we have to talk about all that stuff. Okay. So, yeah, I think we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of work to do, and create our own. Our own books, our own information, our own curriculum for the kids, for the youth. We need something for our members' children. That's a key thing I want to have, something for our children, for grade schools on up to senior year high school, in history and Moorish history. Maybe, and if Abdullah could put together, if he could put together a Arabic course, and so he's teaching Arabic, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Once you can read Arabic, you can read them documents in Timbuktu.
Exactly.
And it's a huge library.
But you can read those treaties and other documents, considering, you know what I'm saying? Like if he could, because Brother Abdullah, he reads classical Arabic, so he can read classical Arabic. He can read the old documents, you know what I'm saying, that nobody else, it's hard for people to read. You got to find a specialist who can read those and translate them. He can read them. So if he can teach the youth how to read old classical Arabic, you know what I mean, that'll be a step, because we'll have more than one person being able to read, and then, with the history, and then all I know is got to find somebody with a math, who can add a mathematics component, you know what I'm saying, and English grammar component. That's about it. The social civic component. That's it. That's all you got to complete.
5C.
5C, yeah. Thank you.
You got almost a complete curriculum. Almost a complete curriculum. But of course, you probably might need science or some type of science component in it too.
I'm working on my curriculum. I just got a job as a science teacher at a progressive private school, just a few students. So I got 8th grade through 11th grade. I'm teaching them about quantum physics already, chapter 11. Okay, in PG County, so it's mostly our folks.
Islam.
So testing it
That's
out.
Beautiful.
Islam.
Yes.
That was in my mind. I was assuming that you was a teacher. I didn't know what, but I was assuming you was a teacher. That's your profession. I didn't know that, but I mean, it just came up in my mind earlier when I was hearing you speak.
Yeah, she is.
I'm an educator.
She's educated. Yes.
Okay.
That's her specialty is education. That's why we're gonna be working. She will be working with us very intensely. And because I can't do what she does. I can't do what Abdullah does. But what they do is needed. You know what I'm saying? What they do is needed. And if I could bring all the talent to the table, it can help. And some of the information we do can go right into Brother Yah's books. Where he's doing his children's books, whatever he wants to, we got something that he wants to add in, that'll help, Is he still on? Yeah, he's still on. Cool.
We're long overdue. We're long overdue.
Yeah, long overdue, bro. Let me tell you something. Oh, let me tell this for you. Man, because we about to close. Man, let me tell you something. There's so many doggone how many? Okay, I'm the Supreme Grand Historian, right? And I joined the temple in 2013. Right, we didn't have a historian at that time, right? I know Brother Shiloh, when he was in his position, he was thinking about starting a curriculum or whatever. That never came to us. But he had certain people. He had like this one guy, Jennings L, somebody else who was an educator who was supposed to do something. That felt though. Other historians or whatever, they wasn't even attempting to do that. I think the last person maybe the idea might have been this guy brother Molden Bay. I don't know if, what happened with that. He got caught up in some other stuff. There's emotions and stuff like that. Ain't nothing really, some people get caught up in like the politics and stuff like that and forget the work needs to be done. The work still needs to be done, no matter what happens. And, we need something. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be done. We need people, we need our children need, something. I'm thinking about, Keith Andrews' children, I'm thinking about Moriel Smithfield, he just got married, obligated. I mean, the children they're gonna have, man. I'm thinking about Sister Shakana's children, she still has a daughter that's like middle school / high school, you know what I'm saying? So does our brother Will, it's something that they can offer and go over with their children, you know what I'm saying? Brother Yabe, his children, you know what I'm saying? They still very young, but when they get older, he can go over some of this information with them,
Islam. I'm gonna have some more too.
Huh?
I said eventually I'm gonna get married.
Oh, eventually.
Not now. Just give
And then brother Solo, think about brother Solo, he got his 12 tribes of Israel.
And you brother, you have a youth too in your care.
Yeah,
right?
my son too. I'm, if I have something that I complete something that's notable, what I'm saying, that I want something that's notable where it could be shared, and it's something that we can see with the curriculum established, then we can move into the arena of a school. Okay. We could move into arena of a school because it could start off as like maybe like a partial school or a weekend school or some type of online curriculum session you can do with the youth, but they could plug in, log into some type of interface and get taught these things, and then move out there. Yes, brother.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Now there was one private school that I was aware of going back to the days of Dean Street when I used to go to the Sarset Society. I don't know if you're ever familiar with them.
Yeah, Sarset Society.
Yeah, so they had their own school and everything, and they was doing it from the armory at Dean Street back in the day. Then it went to Atlantic Avenue. Now they're on Renson Street. But it seemed that the legacy has gotten to the point where the younger generation didn't carry the baton. I'm like, what happened? So we really have to develop our entrepreneurship and basically be economically empowered to keep the machinery running, for hundreds of years, So that's the thing.
Because there's a lot of people who have, when you think about, and it can't be personality worship.
I'm looking at longevity models like ancient Kemet, their education system through the secret societies, just the ones that seem to have a real long, they were able to sustain their systems across generations upon generations. There's some kind of sacred education or something to keep the attention and the engagement of each generation, instead of just a charismatic person in one generation, a few people keeping it going for their kids, but then as soon as they're done, it all crashes. You don't have more charismatic visionaries going.
Well, that adult chamber is
or not even, I don't know if you need to put the children through the adult chamber too soon, but it definitely.
You did.
Ancient
the
Kemet,
prophet, he took kids through the adult chamber.
Okay, but it would be a special one tailored for them, a curriculum in the adult chambers, so that would capture their attention beyond administration. And I know, like ancient Kemet, it was all secret society. That's how they did their education system. So like I'm looking into the Moorish Rite as a model system for maybe there'd be some way to do it that way.
The Moorish Rite?
The Moorish Rite is a type of
I know.
masonry. It comes
I know.
out of masonry, comes out of Kemet. And so as much as it may have been distorted along the way, that's all we have. It's a major example of those secret society educational systems.
Islam.
Yeah.
Islam. So, I joined the Moorish Rite in 2010.
Okay, right. Peace. I joined the OMS just recently. So
and I know some of the original members of the Moorish Rite.
Oh, you knew Brother Hazel Bay before he passed.
No, I never met Brother Hazel, but I met his students. Some of his high regard students. Brother Brother Shemaiah Bay.
Okay. I know a Brother Day who's now heading everything up. I don't know if the others have stopped being active or what, but
the Brother Aleem Day, the Saeed Day.
Yeah.
You met him?
I think his name is
He's like my complexion. He's light skinned, but he's a little slimmer and tall.
Yeah, he's up in Jersey.
Yeah, he's like around Jersey, New York area. Saeed Day. Aleem Day.
I think so.
Aleem Day. Yeah, that I know. I met him.
We just need a model. We need a model for long-term, sustainable, cross-generational pedagogy. And I'm thinking Kemet, being that it used to be called Tamari, that's a hint right there that the Moors were heavy up in Kemet. That we might look to those examples.
I agree with that. Whatever model the Kemites or the Tamarians were developed can definitely be used, because I'm gonna tell you this: when you study Kemet and you study the ancient clans and nations that surrounded that, they all pretty much had the same model for their society. Like everybody kind of like funneled their gods, deities, their religious system, their education system, their writing system out of Kemet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I totally agree with that. Brother, yeah, sure. You got your hand up again?
Let me bring it down. Just
Islam.
Islam, brother.
Raised.
I was just gonna add to everything. I know everybody is on the metaphysical realm of existence with the thoughts and the highest science, but I'm gonna break us back down because we need all levels of this. I'm gonna break it down to the fact that we're gonna need to teach everybody how to eat. We're gonna have to teach people how to make this money, because one of the things that happens is when we get out of the Negro mentality and the Black mentality, when we get into the historical thing, because I was a part of it too, and I still study and love it as well. But the focus, we're moved from the focus. The prophet in the Moorish literature also talk about the beggar nation, and he also talks about, we have to have the Moorish treasury. Like all of those things matter because we need to have ownership. So yes, we do need these schools because that's a fact. But see, if we don't own a building, then we can't have none of this. You own a building first. Then you put the Moorish Science Temple in it with the proper structure, which we have. Then you have the daycare centers in the schools and whatever else you want, because then you have it where it's a mixed property. You have people that's there, they paying rent to the building, which is owned by the Moorish Science Temple of America, that keeps the lights on. All of this is a basic formula. We could do this in every town, and then people live by it, and so on and so forth. Let's not go too far out of here. Let's bring it back, and let's work from there. Peace.
Peace. And that's Brother Yah, you definitely homed it down. And that's key, because we can't do any of that without finance and knowledge of finance. It's very, very important. The issue is when we go about doing these things, you're going to need financial back, for printing, from other things, having the building. So these things can manifest in different communities or different areas where we have a temple, okay? But finance is definitely so we won't be begging or asking for certain things. We can resurrect our own and, we'll be self-efficient, okay? And this is what, the prophet was aiming for us to have, so we need building, central building, and that will take care of a lot, can't ask for things, not ask for things, but we can't embark on certain things if certain bases are not covered. You know what I'm saying?
And I will say that if we want some modern day models for how a group of Asiatics were able to financially prosper and build their own establishments, separate from the European system, I don't want to be biased, but I would just point in the direction of the Sufi traditions of Senegal, particularly Touba, if we just need model cases that it can be done. And there were some prominent founders. One was Sheikh Ibrahim. They pulled in money hand over fist, gave it all to their movement. And to this day, their settlement is the second largest settlement in the whole country of region of Senegal, second to Dakar, the capital, just through their own sheer will and loyalty to their cause. Now, I'm not biased towards one particular Sufi tradition or another. There's a lot of success stories like that in that particular region. Peace.
Yeah, I would also even talk about Islamberg in upstate New York.
Okay, the man whose name is not allowed to be said, but I'm gonna just say it, Brother Lomax Bey. That's in our own backyard.
Oh, Islamberg is not ran by.
Oh, that's somebody who drew from his model, and they did it down in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. That was their loyalty is to a sheikh from like Pakistan.
Pakistan, right? He drew more recently from the same model that Lomax and them did earlier. They did it up in upstate New York, and then it all crumbled because of the same problem we were talking about longevity across generations. Yeah. And then this Pakistani came in, noting the model that had already been modeled by Lomax Bey's lineage, and he just developed one, and they got that still going. Peace.
Yeah, they're the ones who the right wing patriot Europeans try to attack. They wanted to go shoot up, and the federal agents intercepted them at the cross or the crossroad before they even got to. They were going to shoot the whole Islamberg up, and the federal agents got them. So, and Islamberg is an all Asiatic community. It's completely Asiatic. So, and I believe they're Sufis too, but they're not. They're strongly got a Sunni.
Yeah, the founder, the Pakistani founder, is a Sufi. I forget what. I think it's Qadriya. I'm not sure. Peace.
Yeah, and what's crazy about it is he was on the international terrorist watch list.
The Pakistani?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, he's no longer on there now, but of course he's not living anymore. But he was on the international terrorist watch list.
Wow.
And he got two communities. He got Islamberg in upstate New York, and he got Islamville down in, I think, South Carolina.
Yeah, the South Carolina one, there's a dissertation on that piece.
Mm-hmm. And they try to say they were up to something. But every time they go and investigate, even the sheriff was like, I have no problem with these people. Don't bother nobody. I don't see no threat. You know, and that's where the prophet wanted us to be. You know, just like that. It's like the Amish have it, or the Mennonites have it. You know, the same thing. You know, and it does take, you know, it's going to take finance, it's going to take sacrifice. Sacrifice. So the question is, do you have goals in your life, right, that you want to accomplish? Cool. But are you willing to give up some of them in order to accomplish this greater good of forming a nation within a nation? Okay. You know, if we get land, we need people to develop it. Who's willing to go and develop it and live on the land? You know what I'm saying? Who's willing to keep up?
I think before we rush to helping the children, I know parents want their children. Bless the role and the calling of a parent. A parent's going to put, if there's a fire or flood, they're going to put their child up. Save my child. Let me die. Save my child. I get it. But some of us adults have to learn first. We've been citified first so we can even help our children. The first instinct is put my child in the class, but adults got to learn. We got to deprogram our certification, and we got to learn how to grow food so we can even be a convincing model for the children. Peace.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to do? And that's a sacrifice. That's adding on to your,
because we've been conditioned to love city life. We have been conditioned to adore city life.
That's part of our
identity. That's part of our identity of sophistication. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of us, it's like, oh, it sounds good. But when it's time to actually move out to the boondocks, we're like, who gonna do that?
I don't like the boondocks. I don't like it at all. But I can say this.
I live out in the boondocks. That's where I live at.
Yeah, bro. Look, I'm like this. This is where I am. If you have a plan, and I see the plan, and the plan looks promising, then I'm willing to be like, all right, cool. I'll move out to the boondocks. You know what I mean?
Praise Allah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If I say if people participating, I'm saying we're gonna put this energy in here to this building, this town, or whatever. We're gonna do this. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? And I can see people participating and putting their work in. Man, I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm with it. But it gotta be, we gotta make sure it's all planned out. And I I could visit the boondocks. Like I said, I don't really like living. Like there's a town in Jersey called Violent, and it's not even that boondocky. It's very much developed with stores and stuff like that, but it's still country to me in comparison to like Burlington and like Trenton and Camden, where I'm used to. I'm used to a little more fast paced, and this is not even fast paced compared to New York. You know what I'm saying? Philly's not even fast paced compared to New York. You know what I'm saying? Philly country compared to New York, in my opinion. And I've been to New York plenty of times. You know what I'm saying? I know New York is a whole different monster compared to
Islam.
Philly.
Have you ever been in the country?
Upstate, I've been to Catskills up in the country. You know what I'm saying? I've been to the Catskills. And
no, I'm talking about have you lived where the farms is at? Like you can see a cow right down the street and you ride by the cow. I lived in the country.
But that's what I talked about when I said violent. When I say violent, right? That's what I'm talking about. I did live in Glassboro. That was pretty country to me. But I ain't seen no cows out. You know what I'm saying? But Vineland, like places like Vineland, Bristol, like further South Jersey, that stuff is country. Salem, you'll see cows. You know what I'm saying? You'll see large farmland. I don't dig that because there ain't no street lights ain't on like that. Like it's, you going down dark roads at night. That stuff is creepy. You know what I'm saying? So I like the city life or close to it, the borough life. of, you know what I mean, that's something I'm used to. But for the sake of the prophet, the sake of the movement, hey man, what if we all pinching some tents, and we do like that 12, was it 12 families? How many?
And we
19
study
families?
models of success. We study Tuba. We study those success models. We study the Amish. So we are clear what our mission is and our vision. And we can encourage each other when we're feeling those temptations and those weaknesses. We can say, look, remember our vision. Remember what is possible if we stand our ground and stick it out. You know, look at what these other groups have been able to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stick to the mission. We can just like give each other pep talks, you know. So
Now we
that
need, I can tell you this, we're gonna need the manpower, which we can get. I'm gonna tell you something about our people. There's a lot of our people that's down with it. They just haven't seen anything promising.
right, because it gets sabotaged by those who know that we're so influential that if we start doing it, everybody's gonna start doing it, and they want us to all stay in the cities like rats. So we got to keep this a little bit confidential at first when it's still rats.
It has to be confidential. The move we
things,
do, it has to be confidential, and it has to be confidential to an issue where it probably only be issued to once it's done. And the prophet did it. The prophet kept it confidential. And what he did was, and this is what I was told, like anytime the prophet mentioned something, he was already on it. So when he put the article out asking people, would you like your own Morristown, your own alderman, your own judge, your own, you know what I'm saying, police, you know, and people will write back into the Morris guide expressing how much they would like that. He was already getting the town, he was already getting the land.
Hopewell, Virginia. Yep.
Yep, and that's probably what happened. And that's what we speculating. We speculating that once everything got flipped over, the ink took over that whole area, that whole land, and turned it into the colony.
Yep.
So, you know, and then turned it into a bunch of retirement home or retirement home settlement for older Moorish members. Members, yeah. Unfortunately. Oh man, it's about 5:30. We went way over time. So let's move to close. I have so we went over Acts 6, the first part, and we understand that basically going around part and partial. Yeah, brother Derek.
Islam. I just wanted to camel back on what you was talking about with the living out in the country as opposed to living in the city. I was born and raised in the city, and what I would say my testament would be is I learned how to survive in the city. But when I moved out to the country, I learned a lot more because I learned how to strive and communicate. And if you want to be a part of, if you want to start a farm and you want to start a community in the country, you have to get to know the land that you'll be dwelling in. So that would be my 2 cents on the conversation between the country and the city. You can learn a lot in the city, but you can also learn a lot in the country. And if you want to strive as far as farmland and getting to know the people in the area, it's not a bad place to be for peace of mind as well. But to learn how to strive, and like the brothers and sisters was talking about, how we have to learn how to grow food and learn how to survive without depending on anybody else but ourselves. Living in the country would be the best place to do that. Islam,
and I agree. And I think what some type of social analyst or economic analyst or something from years ago, he put in the book, he said that eventually that's the best move. And he was telling all his people who read about him or read his predictions, they move on it. You know what I'm saying? So you'll get a lot of rich people moving out of the city life or moving in the country rural area, because that's the first place that's going to crumble. It's the country life. You know what I mean? and so forth. So, you know, we don't even know why Bill Gates is buying up all land, a whole bunch of land in America. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be to mess with the crops, produce some type of nano GMO type of food. Who knows what he's trying to do? You know, who knows? He probably buying land to create new cities because he knows that the other one, the major cities, might be falling. You know,
You're right about the first part.
the nano GMO food.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably what it is for the most part. I think that's what it is. The first instead of the
alternative. It's an alternative form of vaccination.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, exactly. I read about that. Yeah, yeah. So you know, you get the food. Oh, I'm gonna vaccinate you through the food. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna be the world leader now, but like he's trying to be the. But I don't know. I mean, I saw a little video clip that's saying charges are being brought up on him and a whole bunch of other people, but they threw Michelle Obama in there. Like, why are you gonna bring charges on Michelle? What did she do? Like, you know what I mean? Somebody showed me it. Some goofy more showed me this mess. I was like, man, here you go, sharing far right wing propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, far right wings, they're the ones who come up with all those rumors about Michelle being a man and all that stuff like that. That comes from them. You gotta understand, like, one thing that you gotta understand, the far right, they have infiltrated the conscious community and conscious, like, social media. And they put out memes, they put out short clips and videos, knowing that our people will gravitate to them and click like, share, click like, share, click like, you know what I'm saying? And you know, that thing will spread. So they'll throw things out and we'll gravitate to it, you know, without even researching it or double checking it. You know, on the far right, they'll do that. You know, and they did the whole Michelle. You know, they're mainly focused on Michelle. There was Michelle and Serena and Venus trying to prove that they're men. You know what I'm saying? And Michelle's name is Michael. You know what I mean? And it's like, really, you know, but for the most part, you know, you got that whole idea coming from them. You know, the far right, they put out a video where they said they moved, their charges are being brought on these different people, Fauci, Bill Gates, and all these other people involved, Mark Buchanan, I mean, a whole bunch of people, everybody who was basically Democratic affiliated. And so I knew it was a hoax when I saw the video. I was like, yeah, this is a far right thing, because that's not everybody is mentioned. I wouldn't see why they would be brought up on charges. You know, some people I would, but then again, you're not going to bring Trump on charges. You know, Trump wasn't on the list. Why isn't Trump on the list? You know what I'm saying? he incited an insurrection. You know, that's why I was like, people trying to vote for Democrat, and it's like they don't want Trump. You think really? I mean, if Trump gets back in office, I'll be surprised. I was like, you can't let that man back in office after what just happened. You know what I'm saying? Afterwards, the confusion he caused. This is crazy. The Republican Party shouldn't even accept him as a candidate. You know, but I'm spilling, you know, going on a spill. Where's my yeah, man. So we're gonna move to close and I'm do the reading of the warnings. And this oh, guys, when you get a chance, just, you know, try to do some research on some of the stuff that, you know, I spoke about. You know, like the most favorable nation clause. You know, just around that the Inquisition law, 1621. You know, just I'm trying to find, you know, some information to see what you think. You know, it's good to cross-reference and study so you have a clear understanding. Okay. The warnings to the members of the Moorish Science of America to be read in every meeting. Islam. This is an instruction from your prophet, Noble Dread. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on. What the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Dread. That is why the hearts have been turned to stone and many eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. At least they've been confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation of that has been laid and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah, the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. The enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. The ones that speak against your divine national principles of your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Dread. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, true peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet will violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Dread. And if the prophet's not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out divine pleas to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet, the will of Allah, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Dread. Islam to be proclaimed in every meeting. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and a desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance. I need it bad. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that's facing the nation. It all comes to jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the move without I, the prophet, being head, and it has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Dread. All right. Well, Morris, we're going to end this session. We'll be back for Holy Day, Friday. Inshallah, I don't have to work. Oh, let me check my situation here because make sure they don't spring it on me again. Yeah, mess around and be like on some yeah, see. Let me see if they hit me with that. Okay, cool. I ain't got no extra. Whatchamacallit? So we got 3 minutes. Okay. Praise Allah. All right. Islam. I'll close on the prayer. For the closing prayer. 2 fingers on the right, 5 on the left. Allah bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creating principles. This we ask in our holy name. Amen. Peace and love, Moors. Stop this.